Hi there, hope you're doing well. I've just finished watching Chris's interview with Dr. Alan Storm on Lucy Letby Analysis channel, and it was absolutely brilliant. And I've watched it in two parts or two or three parts, and it was absolutely riveting. The detail that Dr. Storm goes into and the clarity with which she describes what likely went wrong there, or at least came to the conclusion that it was an intubation error unless proven otherwise, essentially, with regard to baby A. And in really focusing on the absolute the timing of the collapse, i.e. that it was post intubation in this case, so that it may have been intubation into the esophagus in this particular case of baby A. But just watching the last part there, it just struck me again. And Dr. Storm's talking about the Lucy Letby Dialectical Society, which sounds a fantastic idea and everything. And the idea of going through obviously all these cases. And Dr. Storm is also talking about the sense of overwhelm that you feel with so much being spoken about this case, so many words, so many reports, so many videos, so many statements by so many people. This massive, huge amount of building evidence through, documentation anyway. I suppose evidence in terms of it being a formal inquiry through Thirlwall, and then you've got the transcript, which is out there somewhere. Not most of us haven't got it, have we? But some people have got it and read it, or read a lot of it, or read parts of it, and then all the reporting, the overwhelm of all that, and that we need to get back to these very, as Chris said to Dr. Storm, these kind of looking at each case in a granular way and looking at each in great detail about what happened here and how can we know that this is the case, etc. And how can we know what we think we know based on these notes, essentially, just based on these notes. And when she was talking about Dr. A there, it was the absence of Dr. Jai Oram's notes, which was quite salient there. We don't, in other words, she's saying we don't know what he did. He doesn't say what he did. He's supposed to say what he did there in that instance when he comes to the resuscitation process, but he doesn't. It's just absent. Why am I saying all this? Is because it's to do with this idea of the overwhelm. I'm just going to pause a minute. Well, I'm trying to marshal my thoughts a bit because I'm finding it quite hard to kind of encapsulate this. I suppose I could write it down and make it clearer. I think I've kind of gone into these areas before, and it's the idea that in relation to the convictions against Lucy Letby, the overwhelm of everything, the whole 5 years and 10 longest trial, and all, it's what is it surrounding? What is it covering? What is it occluding? It's absolutely nothing in terms of reality. It's nothingness. It's a complete absence. It's nothing. In other words, there's never been any evidence of deliberate harm. There's never been any evidence of Lucy Letby doing any deliberate harm to anyone at any time, ever. There's nothing there. So this overwhelm in relation to deliberate harm is it's not a smoke screen, but it's an overwhelm that is hiding at its centre absolutely nothing at all that you can say points towards any reasonable suspicion of deliberate harm at all. People could spend years talking about the handover notes, and they have done. They could spend years talking about the green note, and we have done. But it means nothing. It's got nothing to do with deliberate harm. And I know Chris feels that very strongly as well. It's all irrelevant. It's been corralled in by this fake by this fakery, this massive con, this massive fraud called the Lucy Letby trial, or might be called that, the trial, the persecution, has corralled all that in to cover what? To cover the nothingness at the centre of it. The nothingness is the absence, not only absence of proof, but absence of any evidence whatsoever that there were any crimes whatsoever. It's a phantom or a construct largely in Dewey Evans's head, which was drawn from some initial gradually boiling suspicions for whatever purposes, usually self-serving purposes of a group of paediatricians who wanted a nurse removed from that unit. And once they got on the train of that and she fought back, then they kept on going it higher and higher and higher, and until, oh, the police have taken over, now it's out of our hands. Oh, they got their expert, now it's out of our hands. Well, all we were doing is trying to do our best. We were only concerned for the babies. We're not police. We're not. And the police are saying, well, we're not medical people. We're relying on Evans. And then the other experts in the trial saying, well, no, we're just going by Evans's reports, which is effectively what they do, essentially. Minor Readers does, for example. Bowen does. But it's all about nothingness. Well, it's all about unreality. It's about an absence of reality. That's everything. That's the foundation of it. Nothing. So it was quite very clear and salient to me that, and I think it's a fantastic idea that Dr. Storm has set up this dialectical society, and it's called the Lucy Letby Dialectical Society. But what was most salient to me when she was discussing pretty much throughout this hour and a half with Chris, that she doesn't talk about Lucy Letby at all. She's talking about baby A and what the doctors did and didn't do, and what these procedures might and might not have meant, drawing from these notes, and what might have happened in reality there. Lucy Letby doesn't come into it. She doesn't really come into it because she's not involved in it in a sense of being a major player with regard to baby A there. I mean, she's not in other words, her dreamt up actions of causing the harm had no place in the conversation, really, because it's just been made out of thin air. It's got no basis. It's never had any basis. And there we come to this kind of conundrum that the job at hand seems to be, or is unfolding to be, the proving of innocence against nothing. And that it seems bizarre that that's the job at hand. And in effect, it made me think the way Dr. Storm was talking about baby A, for example, in this particular conversation, is the work that would need to be done and does need to be done eventually when it comes to the analysis of potential medical negligence and iatrogenic harm, and medical negligence or medical error later down the line. That's what it's. And I think the parents of baby A, and I think parents of baby D, from memory now, they were certainly two of the sets of parents that actually had, I believe they had a solicitor involved at the time before the police investigation started. And obviously all that went on ice, didn't it? But it's still there waiting to come back. It's waiting to come back. And this work, this look. So what I'm trying to get at is that all this work is seeming to be done in order to prove Lucy Letby innocent, but she was never proven guilty in the first place. So it's kind of paradoxical in a way, and it's almost as though you've got to. Let me pause it a minute, try to think what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying it shouldn't be done. Obviously, you've got to do as much as you possibly can within this system, because where we're at is you can seemingly convict someone of 7 murders, 7 attempted murders, based on the ramblings of a complete nutter that everyone gets on board with and nobody stops it, and there's nothing in that system to stop it. The police are happy with it. Those paediatricians are happy with it. They can seemingly go on with their lives without affecting their conscience, except for the tiny, tiny, tiny bit of guilt of Gibbs. Just a tiny bit, though. So it's just striking me the irony that the Lucy Letby Dialectical Society isn't really about Lucy Letby at all. I mean, it's being done in the surroundings of trying to overturn a wrongful conviction. But really what it's doing is simply the work of what would need to be done and will need to be done for each of the babies in relation to who and what is responsible for the baby's death. Not deliberate harm, but poor medical care in some cases and medical negligence in other cases. That's what it is. And that's nothing to do with Lucy Letby at all. So that's the kind of irony and the paradox that we're kind of dealing with here. But we're dealing with it not just within Dr. Storm's concept here, but with everything that's being spoken about this. But it seems as though you've got to, the analogy I used before, you've got to create this totally unimpeachable, perfect, shining city of crystal on a hill in order to overturn a crap on the floor that Evans has done for money. That's what you've got to do. You've got this, sorry, it's a bit not the most palatable way of putting it, but he's just vomited onto the floor this crap. And you've got to build a world of truth from these notes from 10 years ago that people are going to sort of say, well, you're going to have to get this absolutely perfect based on these notes, exactly what happened. Otherwise, this vomit on the floor that's going to be the truth. That's the one we're going with because we went with it and we spent a lot of money going with it. And it's a terrible vista if everyone realizes that that's all you need to convict somebody of 7 murders. That's how poor our system is, how corrupt it is, how insane it is that can happen. It demonstrates how rotten it all is, that's possible. So we are being now charged, essentially. The innocent person is now charged absolutely to kind of beyond all reason, beyond all measure, to prove their innocence. That's what's happening in effect. And obviously we're way past any past any reasonable point where that's a reasonable doubts, obviously way back in the rear view mirror, miles and miles and miles and miles and miles back, obviously. And it was always there because it was never a reasonable suspicion. And that's why I'm finding it hard to talk about it, because it's not a thing to begin with. So this massive industry now, and it's all appropriate that it's being done because it's trying to rescue someone's life from this horror that they've been plunged into. But they've not been plunged into it through anything that is tangible even. It's just some twisted, I don't know what it is. I don't know what Evans is. I don't know what it is. He made a lot of money out of it. He seemed to enjoy the power of it. Let's leave it at that. That's enough, isn't it? Think about going back through history, money, power, influence, fame in a sort of way. He was loving it at the beginning. Everyone was calling him the wizard and the detective, and he solved it. And Hugh's the same, get an award. And so, yeah, I feel as though this is a bit of a reprise of what I've said before about it. It's this disjunction between this ordure, this crap and this vomit on the floor, which is utterly worthless and meaningless and says nothing about reality whatsoever. And yet you're charged to create this whole world of truth in order to even, within the system's eyes, get a chance of somebody clearing that crap off the floor and having a restoration of order. And the restoration of order is Lucy Letby's exoneration. Thank you. Cheers.